Hey, 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 we back again. We back again. Maria, you ready to share already, huh? Maria's all ready to share already. I get it, honey. You got some news for us, and we're going to get all up in it. We're going to get all up in it. You had me cracking up. Okay, Maria sent me a email. She was, oh, wow, it is time. And let me know if you hear me, people. I can't move forward unless you hear me. And then I know that once you hear me, I can get started. So I guess. Okay, cool. Yes. So we are back in the building again. And Maria, we're gonna get all up in your story because I know you have to share some news. And that's good. That is good. And let me do maintenance. Okay, I miss your face too, girl. I missed you last week. I said, where is Maria? But you told me why you couldn't make it. And I was like, that's fine. That's fine. So let's do some maintenance. So you can find me in Twitter. You can find me at all of my little handy dandy things are going across the screen on the bottom. So you cannot tell me you can't find me. I have to tell people that all the time. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Twitter. I got a codependency support group called Codependency Support. I'm going to put that in the link after this live. You can find me at coachivorevine.com. You can also go there so you can get updates at all times. Okay. And today we got us, and you know what, Maria? It's going to be a great show for you too, because tonight we're going to discuss about rewriting our narratives. And we have to rewrite our narratives, especially coming out of a relationship with a narcissist. Okay, we have to talk about rewriting our narratives because sometimes they put us through all of these psycho behaviors. Okay. He was bonded up. Wow. He texted me yesterday and called my victim advocate in his prosecutor office, say he violated. Listen, don't they violate all kinds of rules? Don't they violate? They also violate our emotional rules. They violate the laws to our hearts. You know, they violate our emotions all the time. So they get into a world of trouble, even when it comes to our boundaries, right? And when we talk about rewriting our narratives, especially after you come out of a toxic relationship, okay, we have to talk about how we can get back on track. And that's very, very important. Why is that important? Because sometimes we're stuck with the belief that they left us with about ourselves. All during that relationship in a toxic relationship or with a narcissist, they tell us things that we may not generally believe, but over time, right, we start to believe it, right? 5,000th time police got him. Well, listen, I'm not even surprised. None whatsoever. Because one thing you could say about a narcissist is they don't believe in law. That don't apply to them, most likely. You know, that's how they feel. They feel like the law don't apply to them. They're special in the world. Okay. And you know, that's fine if that's what their belief is, but you don't have to come and violate my laws. I don't care what happens with you and the cops. Okay. Hi, Real. Oh, you came in at a perfect time. Real TV is here and Real Talk TV is here. And we also going to play part of Real's interview that I had with Real earlier today. And that's going to be a doozy right there because we got in it. I'm going to play that live for us today. Hi. So, hey, Edie, how you doing? Thank you for showing. So let me tell you, today is about rewriting our narrative. Why we have to rewrite our narrative? We have to rewrite our narrative because when you come out of a toxic relationship, in the midst of that relationship, let's go back a little bit. They tell us what they think we are, who they think we are. And over a period of time, yeah, you finally made it. I'm so glad you did. During a period of time in that relationship, we start to believe it. We start to believe the narrative that they put in our head about us. In our head. If they told us we were lazy, we start to believe it. Silly, stupid, crazy, you name it, we believed it. And honey, hi, Kalo, thank you for showing. And how you thank you so much for showing today. And many of times when people start to tell us what they think about us, and then they discard us or they treat us badly, and then the relationship is over, and we start to find our grounding in the world. We try to look for our grounding in the world. What happens is we're not too sure anymore of who we are. We're not too sure of who we are. So then we go back to where we were last, where we thought we were grounded. Okay? Hit the like, yo. Yes, thank you, Real. You know what? Real is my sister from another mother, and she's a channel holder. You got to go to Real Talk TV. And I know after I show y'all a clip of me and her discussion earlier today, y'all will. Because today, we're going to not only talk about narratives, we're going to talk about ways of redefining ourselves, finding ourselves. And Real, she actually is an author of a very great book that I purchased myself. And I'm going to get right into that right now. So let me start to share my screen. And then I'm going to show some live about a conversation that me and Real had today. Give me a moment. And I'm going to get it started. Nope, I don't want that one. Hold on. Okay, let's get it started. Okay, and
awesome. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Today we got an awesome show lined up for you. We are going to be interviewing our very own author, Melissa.
okay, so there was no sound, huh? Okay, not a problem. Let's start that over. One moment. Do y'all hear me? Tell me if y'all hear me. Okay. Oops. Got it. I think I know what I did. Hold on.
That's not quick businesswoman. She started, and we are going to discuss everyone. Awesome. Thank you. I used We're glad to have you start. We're glad to have you here.
Okay. I did. I know what I did. Do y'all hear me? Okay, cool. So let's get started back on that.
Melissa Davis. She is the author of a great book that I just purchased myself. I'm just imploring every woman to go out there and find it. It is 15 Steps to Finding Love, A Woman's Journey. And we are going to discuss some wonderful things about this book. And before I do, I'm going to just give everyone a quick snippet on who is Melissa. Melissa, she's an author, playwright, poet, businesswoman. She is a University of Pennsylvania scholarship graduate, recipient with a background in education. Davis received her bachelor's degree from Pennsylvania State University in 2015 before becoming a substitute teacher for the School District of Pennsylvania. Davis' accomplishments includes a feature in Best of Freshman Writing and Playwright of the Year from Penn State University. That's very impressive. And she is here with us today. Hi, Melissa. How are you doing today?
Hello, hello, welcome.
Hi. I am so glad to have you here. I
Oh, thank
mean,
you for having me. I
uh,
appreciate
I, I gotta say this. I didn't mean to cut you off, but let me tell you why I'm so excited. I gotta tell the viewing audience this story.
Okay.
Like I was scanning through YouTube, everybody, and I came across this wonderful woman. Okay, and she has a YouTube page called The Real TV. I implore everyone to find it. It's called The Real TV. Okay, just as it's spelled. Okay, and listen, she is so educational when it comes to the topics that she speak about, and she just enlightened me. She enlightened me on how to approach YouTube, especially because to be able to have the kind of conversations that we have, it's a lot of women who come into the room and they're able to express themselves, but she speaks to the part of us where we have to do our research. She wants us to get up there and speak about things that we understand, just not how we feeling, but to understand ourselves and to speak about it intellectually. And I just fell in love with this girl. I fell in love with her channel. I fell in love with her book. When I found out she had a
Oh.
book, I went and purchased it. I
Thank
went
you.
and purchased it. So listen, tell us about yourself. Tell us who, I mean, thank you for this this wonderful, bio. We want to know who Melissa is. Who is Melissa?
So I am, I guess, a regular woman of color out here in this world. Um, I am a mother of four beautiful children, and a professional entrepreneur, and hopefully, someday soon, a successful businesswoman.
Yes. That is, I mean, listen, we about manifestations because me and you talked about this recently, right? Not hopefully, you will be, okay? You will be a successful businesswoman because it's all about manifestation. So, I mean, what inspired you to write this book?
15 Steps to Finding Love, A Woman's Journey. I was inspired by my experiences, number one, and then the experiences of the people around me, the
Yes.
experiences of the women on social media today, uh, the experience of women that I don't know, but I see every day. And so I kind of decided, you know what? Women don't have a playbook. Men have this unwritten playbook. And I thought it would be amazing if we could have something to protect us in this
Yeah.
world of dating and relationships,
Yeah.
and womanhood.
Yes. That's I mean, I'm glad you said that. Because you said something about a playbook. So my next question is then tell me more. Give me a brief summary about what this book is about.
Yeah. So, 15 Steps to Finding Love. As I love this title. I came up with the title long after the book was written, interestingly enough. And it came about because I I just feel like it was important. It's about, um well, first of all, the book is a self-help book.
Mhm.
And in this self-help book, it is also a journal. So you can write in it. You can express yourself in it. It's a workbook. So you're required to, actively participate in finding out about yourself. This book is all about who finding out who you are, developing skills to help build who you are, loving who you are, and so that no one else can tell you how to love yourself, or more importantly, tell you that they love you more than you do.
I love it. I love it. And you're absolutely right about that part. When I got the book and I noticed that it was a playbook, it was a step by step process. And then not only that, it was a place to put in my own placeholders to be able to do the process along with you and to trust in your steps. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what we're going to do. We're going to talk about your steps, and we're going to talk about a few in particular that really stood out for me, um especially for this channel, because we deal here specifically with codependency, right? And I noticed that a lot of your book spoke volumes for the community that I deal with codependency,
Right.
because it's about finding who we are. And sometimes I don't think any of us know, right, who we are, right, at the time that we're going through our codependency, right? Because we're here for the community that needs us the most. And I think you are there for that same type of community, the people who needs us the most, the people who is trying to find their voice in the world, right? Or their standing in the world, right? And their confidence in the world. So I wanted to go on to the step one of your book, right?
Okay.
Step one of your book is called Discovering Who You Are. And that
That's
was
right.
very, very telling for me. Discovering who you are. I love that. Okay, because it doesn't take much for us to tell when a woman who knows who she is, with her confidence and her self identity, right? But we're here, like I said, for the people, for the women who don't have that confidence. So what advice can you give our viewing audience for rediscovering that in themselves, who they are in themselves?
Advice. I would say for the woman discovering who she is, I would say don't be afraid to just be you. Don't be afraid to dig into your past. Um to give yourself pop quizzes about who you are, to figure out what makes you unique and embrace those qualities that really signify you, that really make you stand out. And just hug yourself, love yourself. Say out loud, I love you, while looking in the mirror. I love me. Speaking to yourself, you really have to just put in the effort to let you know how much you feel about yourself.
I love that. I love that. I really love how you said, give yourself a pop quiz.
Hmm.
I love that. That's very powerful, because sometimes we have to sit alone with ourselves and say, do I like that? Do I don't like that? Do I want that? Do I don't want that? Do I need that? Do I don't?
Absolutely.
I mean, and we might sometimes feel that we're, regurgitating the same thing over and over again. But I feel that, if we do that, it can really speak volumes and get to the core of who we are. So thank you for saying that. That's very, very powerful. Now, I wanted to read a story, because listen, everybody, she has stories. She has women with their own experiences, right? And this is beautiful, because sometimes we can't identify what that look like, right? We can't identify the steps if a person don't
Right.
have a testimony, right, about what it is or what part of that life that they were in at the time. And one story stood out to me in your book, and the story is the story of Selena in Discovering
Mhm.
Who You Are chapter. And I'm gonna read it really quick, right? So Selena says here that I'm only 29, but I know I'm a nurturer. I take care of people. When my grandma when my grandma got sick, it was all about taking care of her. I bring this type of care into my relationships. Growing up, I didn't have any friends and wasn't really social, but the friends I did have were like my family, and I made sure that they felt it. I take care of my two daughters the most. Meeting people needs is how I show them that I love them. And that was very big for me. And
Yeah.
the reason why that was very big for me, especially in the community that I serve, is that we often grow up as caretakers. We often grow up as even as young children, we end up becoming the parentified child.
That's
And
right.
have you ever heard of the word terminology, parentified child?
So I never heard of the term
Yeah.
until, speaking with you, and following what you do
Yeah.
in your work, um, in terms of codependency and how that manifests through childhood. But the what it means to parentify a child has definitely been something that not only I experienced, but before I learned who I was,
Yeah.
I burdened my child with. Um,
Ah.
yes, and so it's just like those things. Oh, you don't like a rose is a rose before you knew that the term was a rose.
Rose.
Right. And so I use rose because I'm the doctor of love, if you will. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, I definitely could understand what it means to
Yeah.
do that to a child.
Yeah, and it often spirals this early childhood development stages and personality stages of becoming a codependent when we are
Right.
put in a position of being a parentified child. And I just found that so telling with Selena's story. She just and so I mean, even though you may not have heard the terminology parentified child, so what would you think you can tell our viewing
Mhm.
audience if they had felt like they have taken care of people their whole entire
Mhm.
life and it is and they just don't know how to take care of themselves, like what what advice can you give them to be a good start for themselves?
Well, I would say first identify what is happening, what's going on
Mm,
within you. So I know, for instance, that we talked about those thoughts that people have and how they manifest in our lives,
yeah,
specifically negative thoughts.
yeah,
And some of those are depression, mood swings, loneliness, physical or health decline, not terrible eating habits, terrible dating habits,
yeah.
um, stagnation in your life, in your goals,
Mhm.
being around bad influences, having unsafe decisions, making unsafe decisions, and suicide is very common. It's
Yeah,
very common in parents and in children who carry that burden, for children who taking care of you know an adult as if the child is an adult, or constantly worrying about their mental well-being, or having to step up and become a parent to their siblings because their own parent has not stepped up. That causes all those negative thoughts throughout their lives. And I think a way to combat that, or the advice I would give, is start early. Start learning who you are early. Start asking those questions about yourself early. Because if you don't know who you are, you'll experience what Selena experienced, and that is in your late 20s, early 30s, realizing that you never got a chance to learn you. And when you look around, you kind of lost.
yeah. Absolutely. Oh, yes, honey. And listen, you might have described every single codependent trait.
Mm,
I mean, you might have described all of it. If someone was to say, give us the traits of codependency, I think that you have described them, probably not even realizing. And yeah, so now we're in the business of that we're here now, right? So this is a great segue to the next chapter that I want to speak about, right? Um, you had put in your book another great step, and this is step 5, everybody. That's why I tell everybody get the book, because all of these steps serves a great purpose in your life, and you will see the transition as it go. I'm only pulling highlights from what really stood out to us today, and trust me, if I can have Melissa here to speak about every single step, I would. Okay, but we for the sake of time, we definitely highlighting the ones that's very, very important. Okay, so step 5 is about protecting your mind, right? And
that's right.
often, even with some of those things, right, if people didn't get a chance to really start from the beginning, they're at the end, right? And it's time that maybe they need to start taking some steps for themselves, right? And when it
Mhm.
gets to the part of protecting their mind, can you give us some examples, or give us at least one example about negative thoughts, because that's part of protecting your mind, right? We talk about, it's a chapter about negative thoughts, right, and how to protect yourself from those negative thoughts. Can you give us example of a negative thought, maybe?
Absolutely. So, for a woman who is really just not understanding who she is, or low, or feeling low about herself, lack of confidence, those thoughts would be something as small as, oh, I don't look good in this dress. But saying this over and over to yourself, or uh, criticizing how you interact with other people. Um, and those things really affect how you move throughout the world, and how you look at yourself in the world, your plate, like your space in the world, and your contribution to society, the society that you live in.
Mm. Absolutely. I mean, and when you think about negative thoughts can be such a chatter in our head, right? It
Right.
can be, and we will say it to ourselves. In codependency, we tend to, sometimes the negative thoughts leads us in our day in and day out, because of our biggest fears in life, right? So is there something maybe you can give maybe a tip you could give our audience, at least one thing to keep in mind, before we have these negative thoughts, at least to bring us back to the core of who we are?
Okay. One thing to keep in mind before they have those negative thoughts: it's okay. I would say it's okay that you have those thoughts. Honestly, I think sometimes negative thoughts prepare us
Yes.
for what others will say about us.
Mm.
Just don't internalize those thoughts. Um, Begin to figure out where those thoughts come from,
Mm.
where they originated from. You'll find that a lot of the things you think about yourself in a negative light come from the external, what other people have been saying about you for
Yes.
many years,
Yes.
much of your life. And if you can figure out where those negative thoughts come from, where they originate from, who they originate from, I think you'll be able to not take those thoughts as personal, and change those thoughts. Absolutely.
Yes.
They're going to come no matter what you do. You go to a job interview, you might say, oh man, I'm not going to get it. I don't, but remember, why don't I think I'm going to get it? Why don't I think I'm going to get this job? Where does that come from? And then you can kind of process and break it down and realize, I am going to get this job. And if I don't, it wasn't for me. There's something better for me.
I love that, and I love how you said that. I love how you at the end of that, the very tail end of that, it's like change your mind about that thought, right?
That's
I think it
right.
was TD Jakes who indicated it's nothing more powerful than a changed mind, and that always
Mm,
stuck with me, right? So that helped me change my mind about some of the thoughts that I had in myself, and I remain consistent in my positive thoughts. So I just chose the power to change that mindset, right? And it is very powerful tool, and I think that was very telling. And in your book, there was a story about a person in that really stood out to me. It was a woman named Juan, and I'll read the story. Okay, she said, after my
okay.
high school boyfriend, I entered every relationship expecting to be abandoned. To
Mhm.
protect myself, I created deal breakers, which meant that if certain standards were not met, the person didn't have a chance. And although I had long lasting relationships, the guy always seemed to possess a quality or behavior that didn't match my standards. I only had four deal breakers, but I lived by them: infidelity, financial instability, political and social prejudice, and being a deadbeat. I told myself I was going to be smart next time. And that is a perfect example of what we discussed in terms of her saying she's going to keep in mind about her standards, right? She's
That's
going to
right.
change her mind, to change her thoughts about the type of relationships that she deals with. Okay. Um, and I understand in your book, I mean, I not understand, I see in your book that you have this big, huge circle at the end of that chapter.
That's
Can you
right.
tell us more about that circle?
Absolutely. That is the circle of protecting your mind. I have a circle of support in another chapter called another step called circle of support. And so it's similar, except it's all about you. It's protecting. How can you protect your mind? How can you keep those thoughts that other people have of you outside of you, away from you? Don't internalize it. Don't make it your thoughts. And I think in Swan's journey, she was able to, at one point, she internalized it. And then as she grew, as she learned and navigated through the world around her, she realized, I can take this and I can learn from that experience instead of internalizing how they felt about me. I know how I feel about me, and I'm going to protect that. And so she built up what I call a wall of support, and that support really centered around more positive thinking about herself and protection in terms of not allowing people who didn't harness or help manifest those positive thoughts.
I love that. I mean, how often do we go through life just accepting is what people say about us, just accepting it, right? And in this story, and it's specifically with Swan, she made a choice, and in your book, she made a choice not to accept anything other than her standards. And I think especially in codependency, we choose not to create standards for ourselves. We choose not to create principles, right?
Right.
And then we just let people have such an effect on us. So this was a very great part of your book. I want to say that really I filled out the whole circle. Like I filled that whole
Yes.
circle out. And I wanted to, and for my viewing audience who will definitely see this later, I mean, I say, besides our codependency recovery support groups, everyone, it's always good to find a really great how-to book, right, of self-development. And this is a
Mhm.
one of them. This is definitely one of them that I highly, highly recommend to do some additional steps, not just Coda, but find a great self-help book that you can utilize and go back to later. And you know what? Get you a nice little journal so that you can do it
That's
over
right.
time, over and over again. Just don't fill out the book and then put it away, but get you a journal so you can keep going through those steps whenever you start to feel that you need to take the steps again. And I think that's
That's
a
right.
great thing to tell everyone. And you know what? Part of your book was which another one that I had to highlight. Like I was floored. I was like, yes, this is all me. I mean, it was chapter 11, address the red flags. Address
Yes.
the red flags. And red flags for me is very, very important. I had a part of my show where I started to put out some red flag days and what to look out for. But your book is very telling and a great exercise to go through. So I implore everyone to get this book to go through the red flag exercise as well. And so let's discuss that. Can you give us maybe what is a major red flag for you?
Mm. So before I answer that question,
Sure.
I do want to point out that surprisingly, every woman, every person can recognize red flags.
Yes.
When the hairs on your back or your neck stand up when somebody says something to you, when something inside of you says that doesn't sound right, or that doesn't match what you said before, or that doesn't um go together with what I know to be true, or what I know to be right, what I know to be healthy. Those are all, those little signs that your body gives you. And when a person goes against what you believe and how you protect yourself, when a person goes against those things, and they send these signals, your body sends these signals to you, those are called red flags.
Yes.
And so for me personally, my red flags would be something, is, and I think these are important. So everybody's going to be different. And that is a deceptive person.
Mhm.
I do not, let me repeat that. I do not.
I like how you said that. I do not.
I do not like deceptive people. And so that for me is a red flag, also a deal breaker. And if someone So it's a deal breaker for me. A red flag would be if someone tried to deceive me, and it would look like something as simple as, let's say, I think I give the analogy in the book. If someone tells you they're single, they're not in a relationship with anyone else, they're not married, and then you find out that in fact they had a wedding ring or something, or they had a ring on their ring finger and took it off, that's a red flag. And so you want to kind of start doing the research, which I think is well, I don't think you talk about um that we're going to talk about, but research every red flag that comes into your life. If someone says something and it doesn't match up, or it goes against what you want, what you need, what helps you in your journey, or if it's a deal breaker. And we have to create deal breakers. That's one of the ways we can find out what those red flags are, is creating deal breakers, or things about us that we want to protect.
Yes. I
Um,
mean, yes.
yeah.
I love that you said that, especially because research. And yes, we did not highlight that chapter, people, but that's definitely part of the book. And me and Melissa had a great conversation about this offline, about research, about researching people. Don't be afraid to
That's
look a
right.
person up. They might even tell you you're crazy for doing it, but I'd rather be called crazy for researching them and finding out the truth, right? Than to be, considered, foolish and dim-witted while they're taking advantage of me, right? So,
Exactly. I'd rather be called crazy by them than
right,
be called crazy for dealing with them.
absolutely, absolutely. So, I mean, this brings me to a story in that chapter by a lady named MJ. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm going to read that story really quick so we can discuss that. She said, I met my daughter's father when I was 14. On my way to the poppy store at the end of the street. He was 28 at the time. He told me he liked my lips and I asked for my phone number. I gave it to him kindly because I changed the last wait, kindly, kinda, because I changed the last digit. I guess he knew that trick because he still reached me that night. He said that he couldn't pick me up in front of my house. I thought he was odd. I thought it was odd, but didn't want to seem too scared. We drove around until we made our way to a hotel on the other side of town. I was still nervous, but I didn't know how to say it. After sex, we ordered food and laid in the bed together. I still remember that if what it felt like to lay in his arms because it was the part I longed for. The kisses and the hugging made me feel special. When we woke up, the sun was almost up. He rushed me out and dropped me off a block away from my house. I walked home ashamed yet satisfied. That would be our routine for the next 2 years.
Mm.
Now, that sent chills down my spine because
Mhm.
often women, especially young, vulnerable women, um, and we kind of discussed this a little bit offline about not being able to have the ability to see those red flags being so young, right? Being
Right.
so
Or
young and they,
seeing those red flags and not knowing how to respond to them.
yes, or it's, they don't even know what they're seeing. So,
Right.
can you give, you know, well, I want to say, let me ask you this question.
Okay.
What advice would you give maybe a young girl who don't understand what red flags are, right? What advice would you give her if now she has already bypassed all of those red flags and her heart is invested?
Right. Oh, wow. Um, so I would tell her to read my book, honestly, because and I don't say that just because it's my book. I say it because I really put in a lot of work to
Yes,
try and help, specifically young women,
yes.
really find out how to get out of a situation that is not healthy for them, that is harmful for their growth. I would say, again, learn who you are, develop a self-worth. You have to know your worth. You have to understand what the world should be proud happy to have from you,
Mm,
and what you should be proud to have within you. Everything is about you, is centered around you. And if a person is giving off behaviors that are not conducive to your growth and sustaining your confidence, sustaining your ability to love you. Like if it feels wrong, if it feels dirty, what is happening, then you need to follow these steps so that you can get out. To
Yes.
start doing research about the person,
Yes.
to start asking questions, because asking questions is big. It'll definitely, raise hairs on for them,
Mhm.
and then they'll either change, which is a good thing,
Yeah.
or they'll run. And that is what you want. You want them to start getting uncomfortable, the way they made you feel, the way they're supposed to get uncomfortable, and honestly, they leave, or you make that decision to take the next step and to be around people who are not going to dim your light or devalue you.
I love that. And I never heard it expressed like that. But then when I think about situations where you question a person and really interrogate them, uh, about their misdeeds and the things that they're doing, their deception, they do either run or they change, right?
Right.
So I mean, and I never really thought of it like that, and that is a very powerful for you to say, and I want to thank you for that, because I
Mhm.
don't think a lot of women don't put a lot of value into those questions, and they don't realize that if they be so afraid of the person walking away, but at
Right.
the end of the day, it maybe serves you better if they did, because they had no good intentions for you anyway, right? So
Right.
yep, those questions are very telling. Yes,
And
ladies.
sometimes it might be so hard to leave them that you got, again, ask those questions, be consistent,
Yeah.
because they'll run from you, and they won't want to deal with you because you keep asking those questions. Even if it's hard to let go,
Mhm.
never stop, questioning, never stop trying to reinvent yourself. They won't like it. They won't like it at all. And if the person doesn't like it, then you got to ask yourself, why? Why don't they like when I'm happy about myself? Why
Right.
don't they like when I'm independent? Why don't
Right.
they like when I'm achieving? Why?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. I mean, a lot of women are too afraid to figure that question out. And
Mm-hmm.
this leads us to the next chapter, that is right after they decided not to ask those important questions. They they
Mm-hmm.
get to the point in their life where settle they settle, and that's
Yes.
numbers that's step number 13, people. In I tell you how efficient she is. She put in everything in there for us. We don't have to do much work besides fill in the blanks, okay? But in her she said step 13 is the chapter, overcome the need to settle. Now I really want to ask you this question. What can you tell our viewing audience what settling looks like from your perspective? Like, can you give an example of what settling may appear if they don't understand what settling means?
Absolutely. Settling looks like, or has the behaviors of accepting things that are unsettling to you, things that make you uncomfortable, but you just keep, let it go, just constantly letting it go.
Yeah.
These are actions and behaviors that you're not okay with. These are, what they do is they suppress um, your thoughts. They push your deal breakers, those things that make you, really grounded in who you are. They keep pushing them back and back and back. And so what is called the goalpost. It's the same thing, but with deal breakers. They keep pushing the goalposts back of what you can accept and what you should accept. And then they ignore them. They run over them. And just to see how you respond, and you allow them to. You don't stop them right then and there. There's no checks and balances for the way they behave. And there is this is very important. There's a one-sided compromise. It's okay to compromise. Sometimes you might say, you know what, I'm being a little extreme, or maybe this is, part of a childhood trauma that I need to heal from. But when the compromise is only one-sided, when it seems like you're the only one putting in the effort to address those issues, and maybe figure out where you can be a little bit lax. If
Mm.
it's only you figuring that out, if it's only you um, making those compromises, then that's how you know that you're settling.
Wow, that is powerful. I think in codependency, we tend to settle all the time. It's a place of comfortability for us,
Yeah,
familiarity. We would prefer to be settled in a very chaotic and uh, unproductive relationship than a
absolutely.
very normal one, right? So, why do you feel that women tend to settle? I notice it's a trend found in a lot of women. Why do you think that women tend to settle?
The desire to have someone, the desire not
Mm,
to be alone, the desire to have the things that you want, such as children,
yeah.
a house. We value family. We are women, just naturally value family. We do. There are some exceptions, but for the most part, we enjoy those things, those I would say non-monetary things.
Mhm.
They give us value. They give
Yeah.
us, purpose. And I think not losing that is where the compromise, where the settling comes from.
Mhm.
Is even though this person is not good for me, they can
Yes.
give me what I want, and so, or what I think I need.
Mm.
Um, and then also those childhood traumas. Some people think, some women specifically think that certain behaviors are okay.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you couldn't have said it any better than that. I mean, and I think women tend to overlook those things for the sake of love, right? For the sake
Yeah,
of, and for the fear of being alone. And I think everybody suffers from that fear of being alone. But when we get over those fears,
yeah.
then we find so much value in ourselves. And this led to a story about Joanna in your book. And see, I'm not going to read this story, people. You know why? Because I want y'all to buy the book. So I'm telling you right now, even for Joanna's story, I'm telling you right now, in
Mm.
her level of settling, I need you to buy the book so you can read Joanna's story, which is a very powerful story about settling. So
And
I
let
had to.
me tell you, Joanna is definitely a cautionary tale that ends in triumph, but you have to read it.
Yes, and I like that you said that because a lot of the stories do. A lot of the stories end in triumph. I've noticed
That's
that,
right.
right? She's not leaving us people asking questions, right? It's about doing the work and the stories of triumph behind every step, right? She give you the testimonies. And
That's
that's the
right.
very important part of this book that I implore everyone to read it for. So, you
Yeah,
know,
because it's to show people, it's to show women that
yes,
yes, I'm going through this. Women have went through this. Not, I'm not alone. But look how they healed. Look how they grew. Look
yeah.
how they have managed to manifest the things that they thought they couldn't in the beginning of their story.
Absolutely. You know something? It's like some people fear the process. I say
Yeah,
that all the time. That's a quote of mine. Don't fear the process, but people fear it because they don't really know if success is going to be on the end of that process. Healing is going to be on the end of that process. But too many women have reached that process, took that step to the other side, right? And we just want our viewing audience, especially the ones who suffer, to come on over to the other side. This is where the healing began. And your book is the story of it all. There's dozens of them. Oh my goodness, more than multiple stories of the process of being on the other side of that healing process.
that's right.
So I definitely want all the women to buy this book. It's such a healing process for everyone if they do. Even if you have done your work before, start it over again just to see how you feel at the end of this book. Do it. It's
That's
very
right.
good. So, I'm not going to keep you too long, but I do have my one last question for you. And I want to say thank you for coming because, you always light up my day. Every time, like I said, everybody go to Melissa's YouTube channel. It's called The Real TV. Quite simple.
Real
The
talk
Real
TV.
Talk TV. Sorry, The Real Talk TV. I am subscribed, and I should have said it the right way at the beginning. The Real Talk TV. And when I put this up, I'm going to definitely have your link up there too, so there's no mistakes made. Because I get I feel good after I go or visit her. I feel great. I get to speak with her in her audience. She got a great support a system over there. All the women are engaging. They're great. Everybody speaks their mind. So go be part of another community where you could feel part of a group of women who get to the answers of things. They
That's
get
right.
to the answers of things. So my question for you is this overall. If you could let me see what I want to say here. Sorry about that. If you could give your if you could give our viewing audience one thing to keep in mind
Hmm.
at all times, one thing to keep in mind at all times, what would that be?
One thing in mind at all times, I would say protect your mind, your body, and your spirit at
Mm,
all times, and spend time getting to know yourself. And
mm.
you're going to relearn yourself every time. So always spend time and take time out to get to know yourself and protect your mind, body, and your spirit. I would say don't start looking for love until you have begun the process of loving yourself first, and truly, truly accept who you are. I promise you, if you buy this book, oh, and please buy this book. I promise you, if you buy this book, you will begin that process. You begin that healing process, that process of love, that process of protection.
I love it, Melissa. You said it. Melissa Davis, everybody. And Melissa, before you leave us, can you give us maybe some ways that people can find you other than your YouTube page or maybe even just purchasing your book? Is there any other platform that you would like to mention or anything like that?
Absolutely. Yes, you can find me also on Instagram, Ms. Lady dot connect, Connect, Miss Lady Connect. On Instagram. You can find me as well on Facebook, 15 Steps to Finding Love. Just type that in. I have a Facebook group, 15 Steps to Finding Love, A Woman's Journey. If you would like to purchase a book, I am on Amazon.com as well, 15 Steps to Finding Love, A Woman's Journey. Also, you can purchase a book directly from me. I would prefer that.
Awesome.
Um, yep, you and go to my Instagram, let me know what you want to do. And I have plenty of books here that can be signed, give you special notes, whatever you like. And they can be mailed out to you. Obviously with the mail cost of shipping. Um, but that's possible as well. Let me see what else. Oh, and my YouTube channel, Real Talk TV. And Ivy's up there, you guys. So she comes up, and when I say, "Ooh," this woman is phenomenal, and she, contributes to the conversation in a very meaningful, very educated way, and so. Like she said, that it's a space for women to share their thoughts. We don't always have to agree. We're not going to always agree, but it's nice to have a space where we can talk and share our differences, and kind of find a resolve
Yeah,
with one another.
absolutely. Yes. And like
I'm
she
sorry.
said, it's okay.
I want to say one more thing.
Sorry.
Um, for about the book. This book isn't going to stop what I like to call life's punches, but it is supposed to soften the blow. So please don't think that I'm going to cure you. I'm not going to cure you. I'm not going to 100% keep you from the woes that we experience. But again, it will soften the blow.
I love that you said that because too often people like to get up there and say, claim they're the experts on finding love. But no, Melissa is saying, listen, it will just make you feel a whole lot better about it. So you did it, Melissa. Today was the day, and I'm so glad that you came and blessed me with your energy as always. I'm going to be smiling and all throughout the day. I enjoyed this interview, and I hope this is not the last. I
No, no.
definitely hope we have way more than this. And I thank you so much for coming to interview with me today.
Thank you for having me. I always enjoy you. I had to come to run to your platform when you asked me.
I love
Because
it.
you just contribute so much to the community
Thank
of
you.
women. Yes. Yep.
Yes,
So
this is
thank
going to
you.
be a lifetime of definitely sharing, and we're going to get this out to everybody across.
Yes.
It's going to be wonderful. I thank you so much for blessing me today, and you have a great one.
Oh, thank
Okay,
you. You too.
thank
Bye,
you,
viewers.
Melissa. Bye, everybody.
Okay. That was Melissa Davis, everybody. And I enjoyed every bit of that interview. As you know, you heard it yourself. She gave us all the steps we need to finding love. And this was a great way for me to just, find a segue into also rewriting our narratives. And I wanted to really, really speak volumes to that because all of that information is in Melissa's book. But let's hone in on that. Right? Let's hone in on that because we need to, after we get out of these toxic relationships, right? Yes, it was real. It was a beautiful interview. And and you just like, oh yes, she is, Maria, super intelligent. You will know when you go to visit her as well on her social media, and you will thoroughly enjoy. She does research. We speak about intellectual topics, and even when we're not speaking about intellectual topics, we make it intellectual. Okay, we do the research. We speak volumes to it, and she lights up my day every time I go visit her on her channel. And we want to talk about finding a way to rewrite our narrative, right? So often we get out of these relationships and we're saying, what can I do now? Right? How can I find myself in these trying situations that I'm in, right? I want to share something. See if I can share a screen with you guys. Because it's kind of like let's see. Before I do that, present. Let's go here. Hold on 1 second, you guys. Okay, now I'm going to get you guys in here in a second, and then we'll discuss it from here. So let's see. Hold on, and let's present this. Sorry, you guys, because I thought. Now, what I wanted to share with you guys is telling your story. You know, real Melissa, she gave us some very, very interesting things, very, very interesting stories in this book. And like I said, I implore every single person to buy this book. But what I found about each and every single woman's transition and the triumph that they had in these books and some of their wonderful testimonies was that they were willing to tell their story. They were willing to share their story. The question is, what story are you going to tell? Maria, I know you've been here a dozen times and you told us your story, right? And tell me if this is true or not. Don't you feel healing in your story that you tell? Don't you feel like you're getting better and you've shared something and your heart feels a little lighter when you share your story, even though you might be going through it at the time? But sometimes if we open our mouths and we tell people, this is what I've experienced, this is how I feel, right? This is how the person hurt me. Okay. When you get to that point in your life, you know that the healing process has just begun. You have to open your mouth. So often in codependency, we keep our mouths shut for the sake of that relationship, even when it's over. We tell ourselves their narrative about us, and we continue the working in our head, those thoughts in our head about what that person said about us, instead of opening your mouth and telling your story. Never be afraid to tell your story. Maria says, I do. Not fully, but headed that way. And that's good, Maria, because sometimes just telling it heals, right? Just telling it heals. Absolutely, right? Just saying, this is how I feel right now. Even in the last show, Maria said, I wanted to, I cursed him out. Okay. I cursed him out. I didn't recommend it, but you know what? I'm sure she felt better saying it. You know why? You know, she didn't feel judged. She didn't have to feel judged. I told her, I've been there. I've done that. I know how it feels for somebody to hurt me, and I want to chase them up the block, okay? And do some things, okay? So I know how that feels. And so often I tell people to tell their story and don't feel judgment. She never felt judgment. She come here, she shares with us, right? She shares with us how she feels, and she don't feel judgment because she shouldn't have to feel judgment in a room full of women and men who have been there and done that. Been there and done that. Okay? I did when he emailed me. Thank you. Yes. So, but you don't have to feel like somebody is going to say something about you. And even if they do, what does it matter? You know why? It's your story. It's how you feel. Don't fear that judgment. That's very, very important. Last but not least, and we spoke about this and really touched on this. Melissa Davis touched on this when we spoke about this earlier. She's believe your intuitions, right? She ain't say it in those exact words. Believe your intuitions, not their opinions of you, right? Yes, safe spaces are very important. They very much so are. And in places like this is very important for women who have had to experience the same thing. But more important, though, part of that red flag that we spoke about, that me and Melissa spoke about in our interview, right? She said the hairs on your neck stand up. The back of your neck. Yes, it does. I can recall being in a situation, right, where I felt like this didn't feel right to me. The antennas went up. And I really wish I believed my intuition. Instead, I believed the story that he told me, the lie that he told me. Knowing full well it wasn't the truth. I knew it. My intuition told me it wasn't. Before, out of fear of losing something or someone, and a person who don't belong in our lives anyway, out of that fear, we believe what they tell us. We believe others' opinions of us as well. What they tell us. If they tell us we're crazy for that intuition, we believe that, right? So we have to really pay very close attention to that healing process. The beginning of that healing process starts with telling your story as well. Aside from Melissa's book, buy the book, take the steps, and remember all the key elements of that book to your healing process. Thank you so much, Real. She says it every time. I saw him, a monster, when I came home. He wasn't there. Yeah, they do feel like monsters. And a lot of times they're like monsters. A lot of times some people come into our lives for a lesson. So they're kind of like monsters. They're really not. I mean, they're there in the flesh. You know it's real, right? You know it's real, but they're there for a purpose, right? And then when we see that they are monsters, right, we have to internalize the lesson that we got from that. What did this serve me? How did this serve me? I know it hurts. I know it feels bad to me. I know it drives me crazy, but what do I feel right now? What lesson does that serve me right now in this moment, right? Yes. Yes. And we believe the narrative that they tell us. You remember what I told you in the last show? I said something about indoctrination. Go back to my live, twice removed from this one, and I believe we spoke about they indoctrinate you. And the process of them indoctrinating you, right, is to feed the false narrative in your head. You're crazy for that. This is what you should believe. You're crazy for that. This is what's really happening. You're crazy for that feeling, but let me tell you what you're seeing right now, right? Yes, please go back. Please go back. Yes. And it's very, very important because, and I want to touch on indoctrination in another show, because there are a lot of key elements in that word, in indoctrination, especially when it comes to dealing with a toxic person. They put a lot of effort into that indoctrination, indoctrinating you to their false story, to their false narrative, to the false them, to the false identity, to the false story that they're going to feed you. It's a lot of work. And there's a lot of key elements that go into that false narrative. It's a lot of key elements that go into that indoctrination. And when they're done with you, you believed every bit of that false story. The grooming, that's the word for it. The grooming. The grooming. It's exactly the word for you, for it. Absolutely. Right? We spoke about that indoctrination. I remember, what does indoctrination mean? To teach a person or group to accept a set of beliefs uncritically, right? We spoke about that before. Because if you don't question me, right? If I don't think about it critically, I would never have to question you about it. So they have to indoctrinate you to get you there. They have to do a lot of little different steps to get you to the point where you will see things uncritically without the process of thinking and really taking the 15 steps that Melissa expressed to us, right? They want to stop you before you get to those 15 steps. How crazy is that? Yeah. Yeah. Yes. And you know what? I know the feeling that you have. I know the feeling that you have, Maria. I almost lost it myself. I remember what stopped me from taking that. I was one step away from crazy. Okay. One moment away from crazy. What stopped me was I end up going into my yard one day. It was late at night and I stopped in my yard and I stood up. I stood in my yard in the very middle of my yard and I looked up and I looked at the stars. It was a beautiful summer night. And after he done hurt me and used me and abused me, and this is after the second narcissist that I ended up with. So when you don't find yourself, you can quite easily end up with another narcissist, just like that. You would think that 1% of the population, you might not run across another one. That's absolutely insane. They tend to find people like us, right? So the second one almost took me out. The second one almost ended me, okay? And I stopped and I looked up and I looked at the moon and the stars. And I remember that story I told you about the power of now, living in a moment, living for today, living for this second, this moment, this very second. And I found peace in that moment. And I realized there's peace after that hurt, after that pain, right? Yes. Yes. Cut my jaw off. What? That's right. Listen, and Maria said she got Britney Spears crazy. We know that crazy. When I first seen Britney Spears, I said, ooh, listen, y'all, they were demonizing her, but I said, that boy put her through something. That boy put her through something. Okay? Nobody could tell me otherwise because I know the feeling. So last but not least, you want to go where you celebrate it, not tolerate it. Am I right or wrong? Right? Here we celebrate you. Right? Find your family, people who really care for you. Will you share your story and they don't judge you? Right? That toxic person will tell you nobody's there for you. That's a lie. That's a lie. Okay, nobody here for me now, but I bet you I'll find somebody who will be here for me now. I'm going to find a place where I'm celebrated, not just tolerated. And I may not have one person for me here right now, but I will scan the end of the earth to find them. Okay, I'm going to find my team. I'm going to find my team. You got to stand up for your belief. You got to stand up for your principles. You got to stand up for your standards. The best way to beat a toxic person or a narcissist is to say, no, I don't believe a cotton picking thing you say about me. I'm not believing it. You can't tell me. This is who I am at the core. Melissa told us, take the pop quiz on yourself. The pop quiz on yourself. Do I like that? Do I don't like that? Do I need that? Do I need you? Do I need you? I don't know if I need you. That's right. And when we start to really internalize that and start to be critical of everything else, it's so funny how we could be critical of ourselves and our thoughts every single day. And we will get in a relationship with a toxic person or a narcissist and think we're not critical of anything they say. Not critical. If they make a lie, we'd be like, oh, okay, that sounds about right. How it sounds about right. It's clearly a lie. Yeah. Absolutely. Pathological liars. But I tell you something, people. I mean, besides Real, she came here, Real TV, Melissa Davis, she came here. The Real Talk TV. I gotta keep saying that. I'm sorry, Melissa. I'm sorry, Melissa. I'll fix that. The Real Talk TV. The Real Talk TV. She came here, and she blessed us. So not only did she bless us with the steps of being triumphant, the steps of finding love, right? Because sometimes it's not even about finding love for other people, but finding love for yourself. A woman's journey sometimes to the core of who you are. Love will follow, right? Because love don't have to necessarily be another person. It could be finding love in yourself. And I'm sure that was a majority of her purpose of the book. And that's what we want to find. That's what we want to get to the core of who we are. Rewriting the narrative. Rewriting the narrative. You're only going to do that when you're honest about who you are. When you say, you know what? This is who I am, unapologetically. Unapologetically, this is me. Okay? Am I crazy? Okay? My hair unkempt. Okay? A few pounds heavier, you know? Okay? I may not know how to talk a lick. You know what I'm saying? I don't keep myself up half the time. But you know what? Somebody gonna love that. Somebody gonna love me. All right. But when I get to the core of who I am and I realize that I even love me in my essence, my imperfections, love always follows. And people like the narcissist or the toxic person can't come in and change that story for you because they love to rewrite that story. They love to rewrite that story. They start by giving you little tips like, why are you going out with your hair like that? Why are you wearing this shirt like that? Ill? What I never said that. Why you think I would say something like that? No, it's the small things. It's the tiny little tips. They always tipping at you, tip until they break it, until they break you, and then they can pour all of their negative things and thoughts into you. But guess what? Everything they feed you is the negative thoughts they think about themselves. We talked about the mirror effect. Yes, no apologies. That's right, Maria. No apologies. We don't need to apologize. I'm not going to apologize for who I am. I know who I am, even now. Okay? Those toxic people can't live a moment in my space anymore. I know who I am. And that's what we got to get to. And you know what, people? We coming to the end of our show. So guess what? We're going to get there every single Thursday. Okay? Until the room grows, until our hearts soar, until the healing keeps on coming in. You know what I'm saying? Yes. Until the healing keeps on coming in. Yes. You don't have to explain yourself anymore, Maria. The only person that you have to think about is yourself. You don't need to explain yourself to anybody else. How you feel about yourself is the only thing that matters. Why would you need to explain anything to yourself? You know who you are. I don't have to explain nothing to nobody anymore. Every Thursday, every single Thursday, Maria, we got to talk offline because I know you got a lot to share, but every single Thursday, we're going to be here, 8:00 p.m. Okay? I want y'all to remember that. And I'm going to take it out with y'all. Remember to buy the book, okay? 15 Ways to Finding Love by Melissa Davis. You could get it on Amazon, but she also expressed to you how you can find that also on Instagram. You can reach out to her on Instagram and you could get a signed copy, okay? And thank y'all again for showing, people. I'll see y'all. Thank y'all again next Thursday, 8 p.m. Thank y'all for showing.